I always wanted to learn English, but no matter how many times I tried, I never made real progress. I downloaded apps, watched videos, and even took a few classes. But every time I tried to speak, my mind went blank. It felt impossible. One day, I stopped to think, what am I doing wrong? Then I realized I had no real plan. I was trying to learn everything at once, hoping it would make sense, but it didn't. After some research, I learned that English wasn't just about memorizing words or studying grammar. Instead, it came down to 4 key skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. If I could improve these skills, I would naturally become fluent. I needed to start somewhere, and reading seemed like the easiest step. Books, signs, menus, English was everywhere. If I trained myself to recognize words daily, I would slowly begin to understand the language. So I made a decision. I would read in English every single day. At first, I wasn't sure what to read. The idea of picking up a book in another language felt overwhelming. But then I realized I didn't need to start big. Even small texts, like simple articles or children's books, could help me. With a few words on a page, a dictionary by my side, and a clear goal in mind, I took my first real step toward learning English. Reading in English was harder than I expected. Every sentence had words I didn't know, and I kept stopping to check their meanings. It was frustrating, but I reminded myself, every skill feels difficult at first. To make things easier, I started with children's books. They had simple sentences and pictures that helped me understand the meaning. Soon, I noticed something interesting. Certain words appeared over and over again. The and, is, go, come, want, need. Without realizing it, I was memorizing them just by seeing them repeatedly. I decided to create a habit. Every morning, before doing anything else, I would read for 10 minutes. At first, it felt slow, but soon I started enjoying it. I was reading real English, understanding full sentences, and even guessing what came next. After children's books, I moved on to short stories and articles about topics I liked: travel, technology, and simple news. I still needed a dictionary sometimes, but something had changed. I wasn't translating everything in my head. I was starting to think in English. Then I discovered a great trick reading aloud. It felt strange at first, but it helped me in 2 ways. I got used to pronouncing words, and I became more confident speaking English. One day, I picked up a book that had once seemed impossible. I didn't understand every word, but that didn't matter. I could follow the story. More importantly, I wasn't afraid anymore. That's when I knew I had taken my first real step toward fluency. Reading helped me recognize words, but I had another problem: I couldn't understand spoken English. When I watched movies or listened to native speakers, everything sounded too fast. It felt like a different language. I knew I had to train my ears, just like I had trained my eyes with reading. So I started with something simple: listening to English stories every day. At first, I barely understood anything. But instead of giving up, I listened again and again. Each time, I caught a few more words. Then, I added subtitles. I read while listening, connecting the words to their sounds. It helped a lot. Slowly, I started recognizing phrases without needing to read. I also started thinking in English. Whenever I heard a phrase, I repeated it in my head. If I didn't know a word, I guessed its meaning from the context. One day, I watched a short story without subtitles. To my surprise, I understood most of it. I wasn't just hearing English, I was understanding it. That's when I realized how powerful daily listening was. It helped me improve naturally, without memorizing grammar rules or long vocabulary lists. That's why I post English stories every day, so you can learn just like I did. If you want to improve your English, listen to a story every day. And to make it easier, subscribe and turn on the notifications. That way, you'll never miss a new story. Listening helped me understand English, but there was still one big problem: I was too afraid to speak. Every time I tried, I hesitated, afraid of making mistakes. I realized that I had been learning passively. Reading and listening were great, but if I wanted to speak fluently, I needed to practice speaking every day. At first, I spoke alone. I repeated words and sentences from the stories I listened to. I described my day in simple English, even if no one was listening. It felt strange, but it helped. Then I started using shadowing. I would listen to a sentence and repeat it immediately, trying to match the pronunciation and rhythm. This made me feel more natural when speaking. Next, I used a trick that changed everything I recorded myself. At first, I hated how I sounded, but over time, I noticed improvements. My pronunciation got clearer and I felt more confident. After weeks of practice, I finally spoke to someone in English. It wasn't perfect, but I did it. And the best part? The person understood me. That's when I realized I didn't need to be perfect, I just needed to speak. That's why I always say, don't wait until you feel ready, just start speaking. You will improve with time. If you want to practice, repeat after me in every story. Say the words out loud, even if you're alone. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Speaking helped me express myself, but I knew there was one more step to truly mastering English: writing. At first, I avoided it. Writing in English felt overwhelming. I didn't know where to start, and I worried about grammar mistakes. But then, I remembered how I improved my reading, listening, and speaking by practicing every day. So, I started small. I wrote short sentences about my day. Today, I woke up early. I drank coffee. I watched an English story. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't matter. What mattered was that I was using English. Then, I challenged myself to write more. I started keeping a simple journal, writing a few sentences every night. If I didn't know a word, I used a dictionary or found another way to say it. Soon, I began writing longer text messages, comments, even short stories. The more I wrote, the easier it became. One day, I looked back at my first entries and laughed. My early sentences were full of mistakes, but they showed how much I had improved. That's when I realized mistakes aren't failures, they're proof of progress. Now, I encourage everyone to write in English, even if it's just a few words each day. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to start. After months of practicing reading, listening, speaking, and writing, something incredible happened. I started thinking in English. Words flowed naturally, and I no longer had to translate everything in my head. That's when I discovered the golden key to fluency: daily practice. At first, I thought fluency was about talent, but I was wrong. The truth is simple: the more you practice, the better you get. It's like learning to play an instrument. At first, it feels impossible. But if you play every day, soon your fingers move effortlessly. English is the same. Some people look for shortcuts. They think they need a perfect method or a magic trick. But the real secret has always been in front of us: consistent practice. I won't lie, some days I didn't feel motivated. I wanted fast results. But I learned an important lesson. Fluency isn't built in a day, it's built every day. So I made English part of my daily life. I read something in the morning, listened to stories while walking, spoke to myself while cooking, and wrote before bed. These small habits changed everything. That's why I post stories every day, so you can practice too. If you listen, repeat, and write a little each day, you will improve. Fluency is not a mystery. It's not a secret, it's a habit. So don't stop now. Listen to the next story, repeat out loud, and write a comment below. And if you want daily English lessons, subscribe and turn on notifications. Your journey to fluency is in your hands. Keep practicing, and you'll get there.